Good morning, my brothers and sisters, my fellow South Africans. I have a confession to make. I left the country, my wife and I left the country on Saturday only for one night to go and preach for the AFM in Zimbabwe. And prior to my leaving South Africa, I was a very staunch supporter of the anti-regulation of religion movement. We staged debates on the issue. We went out to Alberton on the 21st of March. You know how much I argued for that cause. You know how convinced I was that you must leave the church alone. How convinced I was that freedom of religion is our right and that cannot be tampered with. You know how convinced I was about how foolish any attempt at regulating the church is and how this would bring about bondage to God's people. Now, going to Zimbabwe has given me time to think, and I've perused the documentation on both sides of the debate, those for regulation of religion, and those against the regulation of religion. And now, coming back last night and sitting there and thinking about it, I've got bad news. I am even more resolute to fight this anti-regulation. I've had time to think soberly about any suggestion that because of atrocities recorded, rapes, and has there been any matter yet? I don't know, but there have been a few cases before the court. I've come to one conclusion, that we have enough laws to fight that. Let me tell you something. We have to be a realist. There are three things. It doesn't matter how you feel about them. They are here to stay. It does not matter how you think about homosexuality. It does not matter how disgusting you think it is. I think it's sin. That would never matter. It would never matter how abominable you find it, how two ladies could engage sexually. Oh, God. It does not matter. Homosexuality as a right is here to stay. So live with it. However sinful you think it is, what your holy scriptures say, my Bible says is abomination. That's why I've never been able to understand how anybody could profess to be a Christian and be gay. But the good news is, the bad news is, however you personally feel about it, homosexuality is here to stay. The second practice is, I've gone around. I remember there was a time I was part of an internationally advocacy group against capital punishment. We're talking about restorative justice and in bringing about biblical principles into the justice system. And whenever we went advocating against capital punishment, what do you call it in South Africa? What do you call it, capital punishment in South Africa? I think it's hangings. We were hanging people. Death penalty. It does not matter how angry the communities were. Every time, we've been all over, by the grace of God, I've been all over the world. When I would go in Latin America, in Australia, in Europe, every time he said, the death penalty violates human rights. They will show us mass murders, mass rapes. But the truth of the matter is, it does not matter how angry the people are. You cannot prove it's wrong to kill by killing. And he stood our grounds and said, there are other ways you could punish wrongdoers. And the same way in South Africa, every time you spoke about capital punishment, people show you 6-month-olds were raped. Those are atrocities. Those are evil things. But you see, we are a constitutional democracy, and not only that, we belong to a community of nations that uphold human rights. And we have said it, and we still say it now. It does not matter how you feel about crime. The death penalty is here to stay. You may ask yourself, see, what's the connection between homosexuality and the death penalty? No, follow my argument. In the same way, It does not matter how you feel about these preachers who rape people, who embezzle people's funds, who run crime syndicates in their churches. The truth of the matter is, freedom of religion is here to stay. I am telling you this as a reasonable human being, not as a prophet or apostle. I hope I was one of those. Those guys are powerful. I'm telling you as a reasonable citizen. However you feel about religion, freedom of religion is here to stay. However you feel about these pastors who trample on people, however you feel about these pastors who embezzle funds, I'm here to tell you, the crimes they commit against humanity are not religious crimes. There is no definition. There's no crime defined as a religious crime. Crime is crime. It would never matter where the rape took place. It would never matter where the murder took place. Crime is crime. So what is common between homosexuality? I said homosexuality, and I'm saying the abolition of the death penalty, and I said the freedom of religion are here to stay. What is the common factor? Because all three are protected. The right to live is protected by the constitutional law. The right to be gay, the right to practice your religion without interference is a constitutional right. But let me tell you, it's more than just a constitutional right. Freedom of religion is more than just a constitutional right. South Africa is a member state to a lot of international covenants and agreements, conventions that guarantee freedom of religion. You see, narrow-minded people don't realize that the South African Constitution did not evolve out of nowhere. The South African Constitution took into consideration treaties and covenants and agreements South Africa has with a lot of countries through the United Nations. And at the United Nations level, freedom of religion went beyond just a legal jargon or legal concept. It's a basic human right. You see, what a lot of people don't realize is very few people choose religion. Religion chooses billions of people. Very few people stand and say, okay, I want to be that religion. Religion has chosen billions of Muslims, billions of Christians, billions of enemies. Religion has chosen people. People are born into their family religions, and that becomes a human right. And it's not a right you can just erode because someone from that community has committed a crime. South Africa is a multicultural, multi-faith, and multiracial society. But you must understand this. Consideration had to be given to the interests of each individual, not group. There is not a single constitutional right which is being allocated to a group. They are enjoyed by individuals. That means I don't have to prove that there are many of us to practice it. So the argument for the regulation of religion is unconstitutional in the sense that it's taking away the individual's right to practice their religion without intimidation. Now, every Christian opposed to the regulation of religion does not know what they're asking for. That's why I'm going to read something here. You are arguing on semantics. Yeah? And the sad thing about your argument is it's not founded. Let me tell you now. If tonight, what is the time now? It's 12:14. 12:14. If I received a call now that at 4 o'clock, you are required at the Constitutional Hill, because Chief Justice Mokgwe wants to meet you and the Civil Rights Commission to hear out your argument on the regulation or anti-regulation of religion. Let me tell you what I have, what the Civil Rights does not have. I have a volume of laws. Every argument I have against the regulation of religion is supported by a volume of case law, a volume of laws, local and international. And if Chief Justice Mogoeng wanted to meet me and the Civil Rights Commission, let me tell you what the Civil Rights Commission will bring to the table: a wish list. All that the Civil Rights Commission have is a wish list. A list, a wish list, which cannot be realized. Everything the Civil Rights Commission wants to do with religion now cannot be realized within the present legal framework in South Africa. Every argument, every preacher, every imam, every Hindu, every traditional leader, every supporter of the regulation of religion, every argument they have is not supported by law. So you tell me now, what kind of a society is it when people's wishes supersede the letter of the law? Every argument we have right now as the anti-regulation summit is supported by law. And that is why to date, we've never had one lawyer. We've had calls from the EFF, from the ANC, from the ACDP, from the CPM. We have had calls and we've had calls and interactions with a lot of political people, legal people, and everybody saying, Shimi, until we had your argument, we had thought regulation was the way to go. There is no way within the body, the present body of laws, regulation will ever give sense. And don't be dumb. Nobody's talking about the regulation of Christianity. They're talking about the regulation of religion. That means it has made their mountain even steeper. South Africa has a culture of poor law enforcement. And that is why vigilantism is on the rise. Vigilantism is when the people don't care what the law says. They take the law into their own hands and they want to run with legal processes. That's exactly the approach the Civil Rights Commission has adopted. In the utterances that have been produced by organizations such as Freedom of Religion South Africa, the previous commissioner, Ms. Togom Konazikaluva, has said it would never matter what her portfolio committee said. She has commitments from the Minister of Cogda that they shall regulate the church. Now you know how our constitution it is. This is what a lot of people don't know. As we stand now, there is no political or legal support for the Civil Rights Commission proposals. As we stand now, you can never go into any political office. You can never go to parliament, to cabinet, to the president's office, but you also can go to the regional magistrate court, the provincial court, the high court, the constitutional court. There is no way you can go now where on paper there is support for your recommendations. But if you go to parliament today, if you go to cabinet today, if you go to the courts today, there is a body of laws that support our position. Deal with criminal elements within society without need for introducing imaginary laws to prosecute wrongdoers. Right now, a lot of people who are crying regulation don't even know what they're asking. That's what I'm going to read here. I want to read something here. A lot of people calling for the regulation of don't understand its implications. There are people sitting in their little corners there. When they see the atrocities, they come to the conclusion that regulation will take us out of this. But let me ask you a simple question. Right now, religion will never be regulated in South Africa. Please hear me. Religion will never be regulated in South Africa. The only way it would ever be regulated is if we kept silent about it. But let me go back to my talk. If outside the context of a regulated religion, as it is now, a preacher rapes a boy at church, we take him to court. A preacher does not declare taxes on personal income. We call SARS and we prosecute him. A preacher has come into the country with falsification or falsified documents. We call Home Affairs and we deal with them. That's scenario number one. Let's go to scenario number two. If the church was regulated, how different would you deal with those? People calling for regulation don't understand the implications. Somebody says this morning, No, we need to regulate, yeah. How we must root out these rapists. In a regulated religious community, how different would our intervention be towards rape? Are we going to the regulation of religion? Will there be a special religious police force? Special SARS task team, police, a religious task team? There is no difference, except that the ideals behind the calling for regulation of religion is to restrict us. And here are the restrictions. Let me read to you now. We must educate each other so that we don't end up calling for things we have no clue of. Here is the Civil Rights Commission's case, and here is the basis for objection. We are saying the Civil Rights Commission is an institute of the state. So this proposal by them to control religion amounts to a state-controlled religion. State-controlled religion means we are giving the state the right to run the church. From the very beginning, our constitution separated state and church. But now, the people calling for the regulation of religion by CRL, they don't realize the CRL Commission is an institution of the state. So we are saying state must run church. State must decide who becomes preacher. State must decide what the church preaches. It's not an intelligent argument, my brothers and sisters. It is saying here, we are saying, whereas the mandate of the Civil Rights Commission is to protect and to promote cultural, linguistic, and religious rights of communities, and it was never intended, either in terms of the Constitution or the Civil Rights Act, that the Civil Rights Commission would license and control them. I'm reading directly out of the petition. We are sending this petition to Parliament tonight. We are saying they were created by the Constitution to promote and to protect the rights of cultural, linguistic, and religious communities, not to control them. And that is why their recommendation to control the church can never be achieved within the present legal framework. That is why they are calling for the revision of the Bill of Rights. Now that's dangerous. The Civil Rights Commission are saying, for us to do what we want to do, you must change 3 laws. You must change 2 things: the Constitution and the Civil Rights Act. The act that created the Civil Rights Commission only gives them right to promote and to protect the rights of cultural, linguistic, and religious communities, not to control them. Now, they cannot, by virtue of the same law, control us without controlling cultural organizations. You must understand the implication. The Civil Rights Commission has been mandated by one act to protect and to promote the rights of religion, of culture, and languages. Now, if they have the right to control religion, that means they also have the right to control culture. I wish somebody heard what I'm trying to say. And they have the right to control language. If they say you have to belong to that organization, what stops them from saying to a traditional healer, no, you can't belong to that Sanusi, or we're going to choose that Sanusi of yours, that witch doctor of yours, you can't go to for consultation. They can't do that. But now people are calling for what they don't understand. We are saying, I'm reiterating, if the Chief Justice called Shimikotu and called the Civil Rights Commission today, meet me at court at 4, let's argue out the regulation or anti-regulation of religion. We would bring laws, we put laws, we bring the United Nations Convention, Declaration of Human Rights, all international covenants that guarantee our religious rights at international level, would put the Constitution and will fold our arms. And the only thing that the Civil Rights Commission will bring is a wish list. We wish to do this. We wish to register preachers, because within the present legal framework, they can't do that. I know you don't have the whole day. They say, we want churches to get their licenses from us. We want to license preachers. You think it's nice, but let's say they license me and I raped. How different would that be? Because I'm licensed by the Civil Commission, will I be arrested by the Civil Commission? They can't arrest people. So what was the use of going that route if they're still going to have to depend on the very present law enforcement agencies. They are saying here, you must belong to a peer review committee. And the peer review committee, that's where a Sangoma, a Muslim, a Hindu, a Baha'ist, a Scientologist, and all other, that's where they sit. And they decide if this preacher is fit to preach or not. Do you understand what you are asking for? That means beyond this point, preachers are going to be chosen by an interfaith committee. It can never be an intelligent argument. They are saying, as a Chapter 9 institution, they should be granted executive power to decide who's a preacher and who's not. You know, another Section 9 institution was is the Human Rights Commission. Another one is the Public Protector. Imagine if the Public Protector wanted, because they've investigated so much corruption in politics. If the Public Protector, which is another Chapter 9 institution like the Civil Rights Commission, if they say there's too much corruption in government, we want the Constitution to be changed to give the Public Protector the right to choose presidents, ministers, and deputy ministers. That's absurd. That's what a Civil Rights Commission is asking. Because you see, the Public Protector and the Civil Rights Commission are watchdogs. They have to ensure they give effect to the Constitution in terms of the preservation of rights and privileges. But truly, the previous Public Protector has been sending out documentation, and now this new lady, she does investigations, but she refers those to relevant institutions to investigate. No. That means beyond the Civil Rights Commission's demand, we should have the Public Protector choose clean presidents. You know, we're disillusioned with Zuma, so no. We don't think Ramaphosa is a good president. We think Malema is a cleaner president. That's what the Civil Rights Commission is saying. Pass the responsibility of choosing preachers to us. Now, let me ask you. I'm closing now. Let's say we're in an era where the Civil Rights Commission had the right to choose who the preacher is. What if the preacher they chose raped someone? How different would they deal with it except call the cops? We are going to Parliament. We are tired of arguments. Our petition is ready. I'm just complying to Parliament's structure. There is a particular structure in which you should put it. You shall hear from us. I hope this clarifies issues. Enjoy your day.